I've been talked into being a father figure to the child my wife had from her affair. Everyone says it's the right thing to do, but I'm struggling with anger I can't seem to let go. Hello, Reddit I plus here. I never imagined that the hardest part of my divorce wouldn't be losing my wife. It would be looking into the eyes of a little boy who had done absolutely nothing wrong and realizing I couldn't stop blaming him for the worst day of my life. I'm a 39-year-old father of two boys, ages 11 and 8. My ex-wife, 37, and I were together for almost 15 years before everything fell apart. For years, I thought we had the kind of marriage that survived anything. We weren't perfect, but we were stable. We had careers, a home, two healthy kids, and we were already talking about trying for one last baby. Then one Friday evening, she came home smiling, handed me a positive pregnancy test, and I cried. Actual tears. I picked her up, spun her around the kitchen, called my parents, ordered takeout from her favorite restaurant, and spent the entire weekend looking at nursery furniture online. I had no idea I was celebrating another man's child. 8 days later, she sat across from me at our dining room table, looking like she was about to faint. She confessed she'd been having an affair with one of her coworkers for almost a year. Then she quietly admitted something else. The baby probably isn't yours. I honestly don't remember much after that. I remember standing up. I remember knocking my chair over. I remember asking her to repeat herself because my brain refused to process the sentence. She did. Every word. DNA testing during the pregnancy later confirmed exactly what she'd already known. The baby belonged to the other man. People always ask why I divorced her instead of trying therapy. The affair alone might not have destroyed us. Painful as it would have been, maybe there was a version of reality where I could have tried to forgive it. But raising another man's child that existed because of months of lies? I couldn't. I told her I couldn't stay if she continued the pregnancy. She refused. She'd always believed abortion was morally wrong, and to her credit, she never pretended otherwise. So neither of us compromised. She chose the pregnancy. I chose divorce. 6 months later, she moved in with the affair partner. A year after that, they got married. Meanwhile, I buried myself in the custody battle over our sons. I'll admit something I'm not proud of. At first, I wanted full custody, not because she was a bad mother, because I wanted to erase her from my life. My attorney eventually looked me in the eye and said something that irritated me, because it was true. You have every reason to hate your ex-wife. Your sons don't. That sentence changed everything. I stopped treating custody like revenge and started treating it like parenting. Eventually, we settled into a true 50-50 schedule. Week on, week off, school events together, birthdays together, doctor appointments together. It wasn't friendship, it was professionalism. People constantly tell us we're the healthiest divorced couple they've ever seen. If only they knew how much effort it takes for me to stay polite. Her youngest son, who I'll call Owen, is now 6. Biologically, he's nothing to me. Legally, he's nothing to me. But to my sons, he's simply their little brother. They adore him. Whenever they're at their mother's house, the three of them are inseparable, building forts, playing soccer, watching cartoons, arguing over video games. None of them care about DNA. Kids rarely do. About 2 months ago, my ex asked if we could all meet to discuss something important. I figured it was about school schedules. Instead, I walked into their living room and found my ex, her husband, all 3 boys, and an uncomfortable silence waiting for me. My oldest broke it first. "Dad, can Owen come with us when we come to your house?" I laughed because I genuinely thought he was joking. He wasn't. Apparently, they'd all discussed it beforehand. Since all 3 boys would soon attend the same elementary school, they wanted Owen to move between houses with his brothers. 1 week there, 1 week here, like he belonged in both homes. I looked at my ex. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her husband finally spoke. "We thought it'd be easier on all the boys." Then came the statistics. Less separation anxiety, more consistency, shared routines. The boys would stay together. No one would feel left behind. My sons immediately started explaining how much Owen loved my house, how he'd already picked which bedroom he'd sleep in, how he wanted Saturday pancakes, how he wanted to help me grill hamburgers. He was practically vibrating with excitement. I couldn't breathe, because everyone in that room was looking at me like the answer was obvious. What exactly was I supposed to say? No. Then they'd ask why. And what could I honestly say? Because every time I look at him, I remember finding out my marriage was built on lies. Because hearing him laugh reminds me that another man replaced me before I'd even realized I was losing everything. Because his existence still hurts. None of those are reasons a 6-year-old deserves to hear. So I smiled, and I said yes. Everyone hugged, everyone cried, everyone thanked me. I drove home and screamed so hard inside my truck that I completely lost my voice. For the past several weeks, Owen has been staying at my house every other week. Everyone says I'm doing an amazing job. My sons are happier, My ex constantly thanks me. Teachers have commented on how much calmer all three boys seem. Even Owen's father shook my hand and told me he appreciated what I was doing. Every compliment feels like another brick on my chest, because nobody knows what's happening inside my head. Owen asks me to help him tie his shoes. I'm irritated. He spills milk. I'm furious. He accidentally leaves toys on the stairs. I have to fight the urge to snap. Then my own boys do something twice as annoying 5 minutes later, and I barely react. That realization makes me sick. It's not his behavior, it's him. His voice, his face, his smile. Every innocent thing he does reminds me of the worst betrayal I've ever lived through. He'll ask me if I can read him a bedtime story. I smile, I read the story. I even do funny voices. Then I close his bedroom door, walk downstairs, sit alone in the kitchen, and wonder what kind of monster has to fake kindness toward a child. He's never done anything wrong, not once. He's polite, helpful, funny. He hugs everyone. Last weekend, he handed me a Father's Day card he'd secretly made at school. The front read, "Thank you for taking care of me." Inside, he'd drawn stick figures, 3 boys, 1 tall adult holding all their hands. He'd written my name above the adult. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried for almost 20 minutes. Not because it was sweet, because I couldn't honestly say I deserved it. Last night, something happened that completely shattered me. The boys were building a blanket fort in the living room. I overheard Owen whisper to my oldest, "Do you think he'll ever call me his son?" There was a long silence. Then my oldest answered in the softest voice, "I don't know, but I think he loves you." I nearly walked into the room to correct him. The words reached my throat. They wouldn't come out, because I don't know if they're true. I care about Owen's safety. I care whether he's fed. I care whether he's scared. If someone tried to hurt him, I'd protect him without hesitation. But is that love? Or is it simply basic decency? I honestly don't know anymore. The guilt is becoming unbearable. My ex insists I'm overthinking everything. She says love grows over time. Maybe she's right. Maybe she's manipulating me again. The terrifying part is that after everything she did, I still can't always tell the difference. My friends are split. Some say I should end the arrangement immediately because I never agreed to become a third parent to the child conceived during her affair. Others tell me I'm giving 3 innocent boys the stable childhood they deserve. Both sides make sense. Meanwhile, I'm exhausted. Every day feels like an acting performance. Smile, be patient, help with homework, cook dinner, read stories, pretend everything is fine. Then lie awake, wondering whether resentment eventually disappears or simply buries itself deeper until one day it erupts. I don't want Owen growing up in a house where he's secretly resented. He deserves genuine love, not an exhausted man constantly fighting his own bitterness. But I also don't want my sons to lose their little brother because I couldn't overcome my own pain. I've spent years convincing myself that being the bigger person was always the right choice. Now I'm starting to wonder if I've confused being compassionate with sacrificing pieces of myself until there's nothing left. So that's where I am, standing in my own kitchen every other week, making dinosaur-shaped pancakes for a child whose existence shattered my marriage, while silently asking myself the same question over and over: am I slowly healing? Or am I just becoming better at pretending? The question wouldn't leave me alone. Am I healing? Or am I just getting better at hiding the damage? I finally admitted something to myself that I'd been avoiding for years. I needed help. Not because I was afraid I'd hurt Owen, I never would, but because I was terrified I'd spend the next decade pretending to be okay while slowly becoming someone I didn't recognize. So I found a therapist. I almost canceled the first appointment 3 times. Walking into that office felt like admitting defeat. For the first 20 minutes, I talked about the affair, the divorce, the custody battle, the endless legal paperwork. Then she interrupted me. "You've talked about everyone except yourself." I laughed. "There isn't much to say," she tilted her head. "You celebrated another man's child before you knew the truth." That sentence hit harder than anything she'd said. I nodded. "You decorated a nursery." Another nod. "You spent a week believing you were becoming a father again." My throat tightened. "You were emotionally attached before the rug was pulled out from under you." For the first time in years, I cried in front of another person. Not polite tears, not the kind you quickly wipe away. Ugly crying. The kind that leaves your chest aching. When I finally calmed down, she said something that stayed with me. "You don't hate that little boy." I frowned. "I think I do." "No," she replied gently. "You hate what happened to you. Every time you see him, your brain mistakes him for the event." I wanted to argue. Instead, I realized she was right. Because if Owen had been any other child on Earth, I'd probably think he was adorable. It wasn't him. It was what he represented. That distinction didn't magically fix anything, but it gave me something I'd been missing: hope. Over the next several weeks, she encouraged me to stop forcing myself to think of Owen as another son. "You're trying to jump from resentment to unconditional love," she explained. "That's impossible." "So what do I do?" "Start with neutrality." That sounded ridiculous until she explained it. "I don't need you to love him today. I need you to stop putting him on trial for something that happened before he was born." That sentence haunted me. A few days later, something happened that tested everything we'd talked about. The boys were playing soccer in the backyard. I was cleaning the grill when I heard crying. Real crying. The kind that makes your stomach drop. I ran outside, expecting blood. Instead, I found Owen sitting in the grass, holding his knee. My youngest son looked panicked. It was an accident. Apparently, they'd collided chasing the ball. Nothing serious, just a scraped knee. Before I could think, I scooped Owen up. He wrapped both arms around my neck and buried his face against my shoulder. He was shaking. "It's okay," I heard myself saying. "I've got you." He relaxed almost immediately. I carried him inside, cleaned the scrape, put a bandage on it, and handed him a popsicle. 10 minutes later, he was laughing again. Meanwhile, I sat at the kitchen table completely stunned, because for those few minutes, I hadn't seen my ex-wife's affair. I hadn't seen betrayal. I hadn't seen humiliation. I'd just seen a scared little kid who needed an adult. For the first time since he'd started staying with us, I hadn't been acting. That tiny moment gave me more hope than months of pretending ever had. Then everything blew up. 2 weeks later, my oldest asked if we could all have dinner together after one of his baseball games. Both households. Everyone. I almost said no. Instead, I agreed. The restaurant was loud, crowded, and surprisingly normal. The boys laughed. My ex and I talked about school. Her husband discussed baseball scores with me. It felt bizarre, almost peaceful, until the check arrived. The waitress smiled and asked the question nobody saw coming. "So, Dad, are we splitting this or one check?" She was looking directly at me. Before I could answer, Owen beamed. "He means my dad." The entire table froze. His biological father gave an awkward smile. My ex looked horrified. The waitress immediately realized she'd made a mistake and apologized before hurrying away. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Then Owen looked around, confused. "What?" His father forced a smile. But he meant me." Owen frowned. "I know." Then he pointed at me. "But he's my other dad." Silence. Complete silence. I looked at my ex. She looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Her husband stared into his drink. My sons looked completely confused about why everyone suddenly seemed uncomfortable. Owen broke the silence again. "I have 2 dads." He said it with such certainty, such innocence. Like it was the most obvious fact in the world. My chest tightened. Because I knew exactly what was happening. Nobody had coached him. Nobody had manipulated him. Children decide who feels safe long before adults realize it. To him, a dad was simply someone who showed up, someone who packed lunches, read bedtime stories, made pancakes, bandaged scraped knees. He wasn't replacing anyone. He was expanding his world. I excused myself and walked outside. A few minutes later, I heard the restaurant door open behind me. It wasn't my ex. It was her husband. He stood beside me for a long time without saying anything. Finally, he spoke. "You probably hate me." I stared across the parking lot. "I did. And now?" I sighed. "I honestly don't know." He nodded. "I've wanted to apologize for years." I didn't answer. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't regret how our relationship started. Still nothing. I can't change what I did. No. I also can't ask you to forgive me. No. But I need you to know something. I finally looked at him. If Owen ever has to choose between having me in his life or having you in his life, he swallowed hard. I hope he chooses both. I didn't know what to say. Because somehow, the man who helped destroy my marriage had just admitted something I'd never expected. He wasn't trying to replace me. He was thanking me, and for reasons I still don't fully understand, that made everything even more complicated.